The haunting woods. The woods were dense and brooding, their towering trees shrouded in an oppressive darkness that seemed to swallow all sound and light. Three friends, Sarah, Mark, and Alex, had ventured into the wilderness in search of adventure, blissfully unaware of the horrors that awaited them. It was a crisp autumn day when they set out, the colors of the leaves ablaze with vibrant reds and oranges. The forest floor was a patchwork of fallen leaves, their dry rustling creating an eerie symphony as the trio ventured deeper into the woods. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long, foreboding shadows that danced between the trees. Sarah was the first to notice that something was amiss. She frowned at the trail they were following, her keen sense of direction betraying her as she realized they had strayed from the path they knew so well. "Guys, are we sure we're going the right way?" she asked, a hint of unease creeping into her voice. Mark, the most confident of the group, laughed it off. "Come on, Sarah, don't be such a worrywart. We've been through these woods countless times. We can't possibly be lost." Alex, the most reserved of the trio, remained silent, his unease growing as the woods closed in around them. He had a nagging feeling that they were not alone, that something sinister watched from the shadows. Hours passed, and the sun descended beyond the horizon. The trio pressed on, their anxiety mounting as they realized the forest had become an impenetrable labyrinth of twisted trees and gnarled roots. They could no longer see the sky, and the moon offered only feeble illumination. As darkness closed in, their lanterns barely cut through the heavy shadows. The air grew colder, and the woods became eerily quiet, as if the forest itself held its breath. Fear gnawed at the edges of their minds as they trudged forward, each step taking them deeper into the heart of the unknown. It was Mark who first saw it, a flicker of movement in the inky blackness. He strained his eyes, trying to make out what it was. A chilling sensation swept over him, like icy fingers trailing down his spine. "Did you guys see that?" he whispered, his voice trembling. Sarah and Alex turned to look, their lanterns casting shaky beams of light. There, in the distance, a pair of eyes gleamed with malevolence, reflecting the light like two ghastly orbs. The trio froze, their breaths coming out in ragged gasps. They could see the silhouette of a figure, tall and grotesque, lurking in the shadows. As they watched in terror, the figure stepped forward, revealing its nightmarish form. It was a gaunt, skeletal creature with long, bony limbs and empty eye sockets. It moved with an unnatural grace, its movements broken and disconcerting. A bone-chilling guttural moan emanated from its lips, and its skin seemed to hang in tatters, like decaying flesh. Mark, gripped by an irrational terror, dropped his lantern, plunging them into darkness. The trio stumbled backward, trying to flee, but the forest had closed around them like a sinister trap. Their frantic footsteps seemed to echo, bouncing off unseen walls of trees. The eerie moan grew louder, and the creature's presence was suddenly all around them. It reached out with its bony fingers, its touch like ice against their skin. Alex felt a skeletal hand brush his arm, and he let out a blood-curdling scream. Sarah fumbled for her lantern, her trembling hands struggling to find the switch. As the light flickered to life, it revealed the grotesque creature looming over them. The creature's empty eye sockets seemed to pierce into their souls, and its hideous moan echoed through the woods, sending shivers down their spines. In a final, desperate bid to escape, the trio turned and ran in the opposite direction. But no matter how fast they ran, they couldn't escape the relentless pursuit of the creature. It was as if the forest itself conspired against them, guiding the creature to its prey. As they stumbled through the labyrinth of trees, Mark tripped and fell. The creature was upon him in an instant, its skeletal fingers closing around his throat. Sarah and Alex watched in horror as Mark's eyes bulged. His face turning a sickly shade of purple, the creature's grip tightened, and with a sickening snap, Mark's life was extinguished. Sarah and Alex continued to run, their screams echoing through the woods. They knew that their fate was sealed, that they were being hunted by an entity from the darkest corners of their nightmares. It was only a matter of time before it would claim them too. Hours passed and exhaustion took its toll. As they stumbled through the woods, their lanterns flickered and died, leaving them in pitch-black darkness. The creature's haunting moan grew closer, and they could feel its presence closing in around them. Finally, they came to a clearing, a small glade bathed in the pale light of the moon. They could see the creature's form lurking in the shadows, its skeletal fingers outstretched. With one final bone-chilling moan, it lunged at them. In the moonlight, the glade was painted with a grotesque scene, a scene of death and despair. Sarah and Alex lay lifeless on the ground, their eyes wide with terror. The creature, its monstrous form illuminated by the moon, stood over them, its empty eye sockets fixed on their lifeless bodies. The forest was silent once more, as if it had absorbed the horror of that night. The malevolent entity that dwelled within its depths had claimed its victims, leaving no trace of their existence. For in the woods, where darkness reigns and fear takes root, there are things that should never be awakened. The trio had ventured into a nightmare from which there was no escape, their fate sealed by the unrelenting horrors of the woods. The forest had claimed them, and their souls were forever lost to the eternal darkness that dwelled within.